Hey everyone, Fox here. As you can probably tell by the way I sound, I'm not feeling the best, but I'm still going to try and at least get 2 videos out to you guys. This one being the false. From film theory, why musicians will always survive a quiet place. Let's start this.
This video contains spoilers for Multiverse of Madness. Yep, you
Okay.
heard that right. Oh, and it also includes spoilers for A Quiet Place, but
Yeah, okay.
I figure you care less about that one.
I mean, that depends on who you're asking.
Hello, Internet!
Ooh.
Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's probably best described as the loud place, usually, also the obnoxious place, certainly the nerdy place, and also, hopefully, the place you want to subscribe. A
Matt,
Quiet
even talking
Place.
at
One
that
of
volume,
2
you
horror
would've been
movies in which we
killed.
watch Jim from The Office get ripped apart in front of our eyes. I guess
Oh.
there's just something about his face that screams,
Whoa,
put
did
me
not know
through a
that.
paper shredder. Just saying, he might be the new Mr. Fantastic, but there is nothing fantastic about his track
okay.
record surviving on the big screen. Anyway, seeing him in Multiverse of
that's kind
Madness
of
got me
interesting.
revisiting his past works, and I gotta say, A Quiet Place 1, still a banger. When
Alright,
this thing came
cool.
out in 2018, it was game-changing. Not only did it
Yeah, it
provide
was.
huge representation for deaf actors, but in a pop culture landscape where everything is constantly screaming in your face for attention, the
Yes,
movie's silent
bang,
ad
bang,
campaign
bang.
stood out as completely
just-
unique. The film introduces us to a race of aliens known as the Death Angels. Yeah, that is their official name based on the news clippings that are shown in the film. But these aren't your garden variety xenomorphs,
okay.
my friends. These are apex predators that hunt
that
purely
was
by
just like a
sound.
fan
The opening
name.
minutes make it immediately clear just how deadly
Not
these
the
things
actual
are.
name
When
of
we
them
watch
at all.
little Bo find himself a loud toy and get absolutely wrecked.
And
Come to
dead.
think of it, these guys should probably team up with the invisible
Immediately.
creatures from Bird Box and the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who. They'd be like an unbeatable sensory legion of doom. As a result of their sensitivity to
God.
sound, the world has
You literally
become, as the title
would not be
says,
able
a
to
quiet
do
place.
anything.
In order to survive, people walk on sand to muffle the sound of their footsteps. They use sign language to talk, and they play board games using fabric pieces because plastic pieces would be too darn loud. Hold up, is that, are they playing Monopoly? If
Yes,
that is
yes,
the
they are.
entertainment that they have available, I don't know, I might be sacrificing myself to the Death Angels. The survivors have set up
Knowing
security
me,
systems
I'd
that
be
use
dead
fireworks
long
as distraction
gone the
mechanisms,
first
and one
phase
of the
of the
few bits
invasion.
of relief that we and the characters get from the oppressive silence is when they go and visit a waterfall that allows them to safely shout. And you see, it's all
Yes,
of these details
it
that
was.
make the world of this movie so darn good. The
Truly,
world
that was
feels really
nice.
thought out, lived in. Like the people who've lasted this long have truly done their homework in order to survive. And then
I mean,
part
the
2 came
guy-
out and threw most of that away, but
The
yeah,
aliens
sequel.
can't
Anyway, I think at
see
this
at
point we've
all.
all seen at least one How to Survive a Quiet Place video. And the survival
Yeah,
tips tend to amount
a
to
few.
something like, live near the waterfall so the sound of the water covers you. Great, thanks a lot, Captain Obvious. I
Yes,
want to go
thank you.
deeper. I don't
That
want
is
preschool
nice.
survival tactics. I want post-grad stuff. I want to scientifically pinpoint the
Oh,
exact
God.
decibel ranges that'll keep me alive. Is
That is
stepping on an
terrible.
errant leaf an instant death? Is going shoeless
pretty
on a
much.
path of sand really necessary, or is it just there for dramatic effect? What
Dramatic
happens
effect,
if I
really.
have a really loud fart? Well, as it turns out, director John Krasinski did think about that last one. When working on the films, he told his actors, and I quote, just try to crop dust. What that tells
Wait,
me,
what?
other than the fact that A
Oh.
Quiet Place is a silent but deadly
Oh,
world
no.
in more ways than one, is that there is a limit to how loud you can be. It's clear that the Death Angels aren't bothered by certain sounds, otherwise they'd be drawn to the family's nightly fire, or the rustling of the clothesline in the wind. So what do these
Yeah.
monsters define as a tolerable volume? How loud can you afford to be in a quiet place and still survive? Since volume seems to be the key factor here, we're gonna need to look into measuring sound in decibels. So I grabbed my
Alright, here
trusty
we go.
decibel meter from the crunchiest chip episode of Food Theory
Oh, I
and got to
remember
some
that.
real life testing. First was establishing a baseline of what the aliens would and wouldn't respond to in the film. The first kill in A Quiet Place happens when a toy rocket ship noise blasts off. So I found a similar
Oh,
toy
yeah.
IRL and measured it with my
Oh,
meter
nice.
to find that it rang
That's
in
actually
at
really
about
cool.
105 decibels. A loud, inorganic
Huh.
noise like that is going to be easily heard by the aliens. No surprises
really a
there.
lot of people.
However, we also have to factor in the variable of distance. As we all know, being further away from a noise makes it much
Does
quieter.
lessen
So
it,
the
yes.
alien wasn't responding to a 100+ decibel sound, it was actually able to hear something much lower and immediately go
Yeah.
on the attack. So how far away was the alien? Well, it took Bo out in roughly 30 seconds sprinting at what appears to be
But that's
top
actually
speed.
also
Based
the
on the
thing.
car chase sequence at the beginning
The
of the
aliens
second
was just
film, we can
really
roughly
fast.
estimate the distance that it covered. In that scene, an alien alien catches up to a 1975 Oldsmobile Delta 88
Whoa,
Royale
look at
after
that.
it's been floored for 8 seconds. That's a car that can go 0 to 60 in 11.9 seconds,
Nice.
meaning that these Death Angels can accelerate to a speed of at least 40 miles per hour just as quickly. Doing some
Damn,
quick
they are
calculations, it
fast.
means
That's
that in
actually
order
kind
to
of
hear the noise
impressive.
Bo's rocket ship made and reach him in time, the creature was at most 1,758 feet or 535.8 meters away.
I mean, one thing to point out is that these things it's just one gigantic eel. Like, they don't have eyes, a nose, or anything like that. I don't even think they have a tongue. They have just a mouth with teeth, and everything else is just a giant eel. So, yeah, I mean, that's something to think about. They're just a giant eel.
Now, 1,700 feet might seem like a long way off. However, according to a noise attenuation calculator, even at that extreme distance, the noise would still clock in at 54 decibels.
Ooh.
That is data point number 1. Another attack happens in the first movie when Evelyn
no.
steps on a nail and drops a glass picture frame. Here, we
Oh,
don't get a
damn
sense
it.
of the alien's distance, but real-world testing shows that glass breaking would clock in around 90 decibels. In other instances, a metal
Yikes.
silo door opens, which would be around 100 dB, shotguns are fired, which is about 150 dB, and fireworks
Yep.
are used as a distraction, which makes a lot of sense considering they're very loud,
Oh, yeah.
150 to 175 dB. In the sequel, aliens
Yeah.
are alerted when people scream, when they rattle bottles, and when they crash into objects. What do
Oh,
all of these
great.
noises have in common? Two things. The noises aren't naturally occurring, and they always have sound levels above 50 decibels. These two factors seem to be the things that always
Okay.
wind up alerting the aliens. So, based on the first
So,
part of this
inorganic
analysis, I
noise.
immediately have to call BS on the corn that the Abbott family has. There are several acres of perfectly planted rows. It's not like it's last
that
year's
is
crop
kind of
either, because we
amazing.
see that harvest slowly dying in the fields. These stalks are lush green. They've clearly been planted after the invasion. I'm sorry, but tending to all this
Yeah.
land is gonna make over 60 decibels worth of noise. You ever crack corn off its stalk? That's a solid alien whistle right there. So, now
Crack.
equipped with
Oh,
a
I'm
baseline of what it
dead.
takes to trigger an attack, I then
Oh, boy.
started to test the things that we see the survivors do in their day-to-day lives. I stuffed a backpack
Okay.
and walked on all the surfaces that we see them cover in the movies: sand, gravel, grass, concrete. I measured the
Nice.
noise of insects and birds. I clanged glass bottles against each other. I yelled as loudly as possible and stood there like a creeper to figure out the noise drop-off of neighborhood joggers. Don't mind me, I'm just recording how loud you are for a YouTube video. By the way, would you help me find out how loud getting a leg stuck in a bear trap would be? It's
no.
for science! After tabulating all the
even
results,
I
I'm
don't think I
kinda
would be able
shocked to
to.
say this, but all the stuff we see him doing in the movie, yeah, it's kinda a necessity for survival in this world. Walking on dried leaves is a literal death sentence, clocking in at minimum 55 decibels. Stepping on a stick,
damn.
even worse. The resulting snap is upwards of 70 dB, and crunching along on gravel isn't that far off either, topping out at 45 decibels, dangerously close to our 50 dB limit. Walking on
Oh,
sand,
boy.
meanwhile, deadens the sound considerably, lowering the volume down to a much safer 35 decibels. Grass,
Nice.
same deal. So for as
Nice.
ridiculously
Okay.
over the top as pouring out
That's good, at
pathways of
least.
sand might seem in the movie, turns out it's a great way to ensure the safety of our survivors. Also a
Good.
necessity,
Good.
whispering. A normal conversation tends to happen in the 60 decibel range, which puts
Yeah,
an
I'm definitely
immediate target
dead.
on your back. But by softening it down to a whisper, which averages out at around 30 dB, you're gonna be in the clear. However, don't get too comfortable because our acoustic surroundings are always shifting. And
yes,
this
right.
is where advanced survival techniques start coming into play. You see, during A Quiet Place, Evelyn warns Lee that sundown
That's
is
actually one thing to always remember. If you're in a place that's got like a lot of carpet or fabric stuff, that's going to dampen the sound even more because fabric absorbs sound and stops it. Meanwhile, if you're in a place with a lot of hardwood, the desk I'm on is very hardwood. Not sure if you can hear that, but yeah. If you were in a place with just a lot of this, then your volume would be a lot louder. I mean, I should know. Just go into your own kitchen, start talking. Then go into your closet and start talking. The sound's gonna be completely different.
rapidly approaching. Watching the movie, and I think the rest of the audience assumed that this warning was because it's easier to travel during the day. Trails through the woods are home to routes and uneven roads that are begging for people to trip on them at night.
Ooh,
and while that's certainly a big
bad.
threat, one additional thing that most people wouldn't think about here is that sound travels further at night.
But
you see,
what?
under normal conditions, the sun heats the earth, which means that during the day, warm air tends to be near the surface and cooler air tends to be at higher elevations. Sound waves travel faster in warm air and tend to move towards cooler temperatures. It's a bit of an oversimplification, but roughly that's how it works. As such, during the day, most sound refracts upwards into the sky and quickly disappears amongst the clouds. However, at night, or when there's dense cloud cover, a temperature inversion occurs. Cooler air stays near the Earth's surface, and the warmer air is found at higher elevations. Now when a sound happens, that sound wave is refracted back down towards Earth. It doesn't want to pass from cool air to warm up the clouds. The effect is that sounds can now be heard much more clearly over longer distances at night. So that's survival skills 301. Do all your business during the day. Also, I know you want to live close to water, but it might not be smart to live extremely close to a lake. During the nighttime hours, the colder water causes a natural amplification that allows the sound waves to travel further. Thus, while it's certainly smart to live near a water source, you just gotta make sure it's a running water source. Don't just move into the first lake house that you find. It's the equivalent of living next to an organic megaphone. This temperature amplification effect also applies to seasons of the year. Since the Abbotts live in New York, where there are some incredibly cold, harsh winters, they have to be extra careful during those months. According to David Phillips, senior climatologist for Environment Canada, quote, "Never tell a secret on a cold day because you can hear people talking from as far as 6 kilometers or 3.7 miles away." But this is all defensive. Let's talk about going on the offense. Really cool. At the end of the movie, Reagan discovers the monster's weakness, a specific pitch of feedback coming from her cochlear implant. But did you notice that this feedback caused uncontrollable muscle vibrations in the Death Angel's body? Now, it might just be sensory overload short-circuiting the Death Angel's brain function, but a more accurate analysis of what's going on here appears to be tapping into the monster's resonant frequency. You see, pretty much every material has a natural frequency that it...
Wait. Resonant frequency? Then that means if you get to that volume to that exact pitch and keep it there long enough, the alien would completely shadow. It's just like how an opera singer can shadow a crystal glass. If they get right up to its specific point of sound and keep it there long enough, shadow.
Likes to vibrate
Everything
at.
has
When subjected to this frequency, the natural vibrations of the material are at their most extreme. In scientific terms, the amplitude of the vibration is at its peak. So if you can manage to hit a material with its specific resonant frequency loud and long enough, it'll vibrate so violently that it'll eventually break. This is how opera singers are sometimes able to shatter glassware.
See,
now,
what did I
most
just
living
say?
things are made
What
up
did I
of numerous
just
soft
say?
organic structures with varying resonant frequencies, which makes it hard to weaponize sound. But the Death Angels just so happen to be covered claw to fang in a singular dense armor-like material, and Reagan's cochlear implant tapped into exactly the right frequency. So now the question is, what frequency are we talking about?
Megaphone.
Listening to the scenes where this technique is used in both Quiet Place 1 and 2, you can tell that the pitch actually shifts quite a bit.
And just go, boom! Sound gun.
There's no one set frequency
could make
here.
an actual
However, after
sound
testing
gun.
these using various online frequency identification tools, the killer tone appears to be somewhere between 1400 and 1900 hertz. Did I pinpoint an exact pitch? No, but I've at least greatly narrowed the test range. For reference, the TV audio test sound... Yeah, that is a pure 1000 hertz tone. A typical smoke alarm, meanwhile, falls in at 3000 to 4000 hertz range. On YouTube, there are dozens of standalone videos where pure tones of these sonic ranges exist. There's also a handful of musical instruments that can play in these frequencies. High stringed instruments like the violin and viola, high woodwinds like the flute and piccolo, even the piano. In short, you don't need feedback from a cochlear implant to survive. You just need a solid internet connection or, you know, some basic music skills. Then, by building up a feedback loop of the armor's resonant frequency, the Death Angels will have every inch of their exoskeletons buzzing in multiple directions. Unable to keep their plating aligned, they open up, exposing the soft, juicy, weak point inside, which is the perfect opportunity to strike. So there you have it, friends, a more scientific look at how to survive a quiet place. If you have to make noise, keep it under 50 decibels. Be extra careful at night or on cold days. Stay away from peaceful lakes that'll amplify sounds. And if you truly want to fight back, learn how to play an instrument. moment. Glad to see that my 3 years of playing the viola badly throughout middle school will finally pay off.
Ooh.
But hey, that's
Still loading,
just a
kid.
theory. A film theory. And cuts.
Well, I gotta say that it was an interesting theory, and that does help us with an idea. If these aliens ever decide to attack actual Earth, now we know what to do. Megaphone, hearing aid, crank that up to, let's go with 1,600 hertz, and just start blasting. Sound gun. Awesome. Well, anyway, this has been Fox Reacts 2, and I hope to see all of you in the next video. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Down in the description will be a link to the original video, so remember to support the original creator and all they do, and I'll see all of you folks in the next video. Peace.